hay đi thăm bố mẹ. Khi đi làm, đi dạo buổi trưa trong công viên hoặc mưa buổi tối trên đường về nhà. Hãy đeo khẩu trang trong mọi hoàn cảnh, vì khẩu trang ngăn chặn sự lây lan của COVID-19 và giúp bang Washington mở cửa. Người dân Washington, hãy đeo khẩu trang để mở cửa bang Washington. Hãy truy cập website coronavirus.wa.gov để biết thêm thông tin chi tiết. Thông điệp này do chính phủ bang Washington mang đến cho bạn.
This is the news on Rainier Avenue Radio. Britain's newly established quarantine hotels received their first guests as the government tries to prevent new coronavirus variants from derailing a fast-moving vaccination drive that has delivered more than 15 million shots in 10 weeks. Passengers arriving in Heathrow Airport were escorted by security guards to buses that took them to the nearby hotels. Some of the travelers said they had tried and failed to make it to Britain to avoid the quarantine, AP's Jill Lawless reports. Britain has given a first dose of coronavirus vaccine to almost a quarter of its population, but health officials are concerned that vaccines may not work as well on some new strains of the virus, including one first identified in South Africa. And that's your news on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Join Rainier Avenue Radio from 5 to midnight for Sunday evening sound sessions. Jazz from the Cabinets, from Big Poppy.
That's right. It's time once again for Jazz from the Cabinets with Big Poppy.
Sergio Lacour's Love Lines.
It's Sergio's Love Lines with Sergio Lacour. Go to the phone line. Tell her who we talking to.
Sage Prince and Just My Opinion.
This is Sage, and that's just about going to do it for the first half of Just My Opinion.
K-Fox Nightbeat with Nasty Ness Rodriguez.
The beat of the Fox. K-Fox Nightbeat, Nasty Ness.
You know what? You're going to listen from 5 to midnight. Just turn it on and don't stop. DJ Alibaba. The Underground Surround Sound Star Time with Paul Pearson.
Thanks for tuning in. My name is Paul Pearson.
Sunday evening sound sessions on Rainier Avenue Radio. Trust me, you'll be listening the entire time from 5 to midnight. Sunday evening, your sound session on Rainier Avenue Radio.
This is Rainier Avenue Radio. .world.
Welcome to Rainier Avenue Radio. This is Afternoons with Monique, recording live in Seattle, Washington, every Thursday at 1 p.m.
Hello, you are tuned in on Rainier Avenue Radio for Afternoons with Monique, her interview with Ginny Cheng. And we are currently waiting on our host to arrive, so stay tuned right here on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio. Monique will be on until 1:30 with her interview with Ginny Cheng shortly, and when she arrives. Following Monique, we'll have a program called Reparation Without Gentrification, 10 Keys to Building Wealth in the Black Community. That'll be going live at 1:30 p.m. right after Afternoons with Monique. And again, we will resume when Monique arrives for Afternoons with Monique today on Rainier Avenue Radio and her interview with Ginny Cheng. So stay with us on Facebook, stay with us on YouTube, stay with us on Twitch, stay with us on our Rainier Avenue Radio app, which you can download for free. iPhone and Android users, just click it once and it's already playing. And on our website, rainieravenue.radio.world. We appreciate you for tuning in, and we will give you some music to hold you down until Monique's arrival right here on Rainier Avenue Radio, your community radio station based right here in Seattle.
Good afternoon, Dan. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rainier Avenue Radio. You are on Afternoons with Monique. I'm Monique Lee, your host. Today, I have the pleasure of inviting a friend of mine, Ginny Jen. She is an HR specialist. She had been with several Fortune 500 companies, including Microsoft, Facebook, and currently she is with Zillow. She is an accomplished HR expert, and I thought I would invite someone like her on the show and explore the topic of career development and growth for professionals. Ginny, are you there? Hi, Ginny. How are you?
Good.
You. Sorry for the delay. I tried to log in and I couldn't log in for the longest time.
No worries. I was just going to ask the DJ to let me sing for a few minutes while we wait for you. I'm just kidding.
You are so funny. Well, first of all, I met Ginny almost like 9 years ago in Seattle when she was still at Microsoft, right?
Yeah.
And then she had moved on and joined Facebook and worked there a number of years. And, I would consider Ginny a veteran in the human resources area. So you're the first HR person that I have on the show. So I'm excited to learn about the different changes in your area of professional world. So let's get started. Ginny, tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah. And first of all, I'm probably more on the recruiting side of things. So really bringing talent into a company versus HR. But I have lots of great friends and coworkers in that space that I always consult, I would consider myself to be multi-passionate person. So I don't know if you used to take any like personality quizzes and to kind of like find out what your strengths are or who you are. I always landed on like the more adventurous or more curious side of the scale, both professionally and personally. So that seems to fit me because I've traveled to about 50 different countries and I've worked abroad globally, including living in Taiwan and London. But I did grow up in Seattle though. So Seattle is my original home. And I'm currently now in San Francisco doing, as you said, talent acquisition leader for Zillow.
Right. And how long did you live in Seattle before you moved to San Francisco?
I want to say throughout my childhood, and I went to University of Washington. So I'm a Husky. I will not tell you the year because there's no need to date ourselves. But yes, I was. Yes, but I am a Husky. Yeah.
Very cool. As you know, I'm a UW alumni myself, and
that's right.
I always have great people from the UW joining us the show, which is very exciting. And did you? How long have you been with Zillow now?
About 3.5 years, so almost 4. Yes.
Another Washington Fortune 500 companies. I'm not sure. Actually, Zillow is a growth and still on a startup phase. So I'm not sure if they are quite Fortune 500. Correct me if I'm wrong.
They actually we just celebrated our 15th anniversary or 15th birthday last week. So yeah, I mean, Zillow's been rooted here in the Seattle, market from there, but we've also have offices like in San Francisco, where I am now based. It also includes New York, Irvine, Denver. There's quite a few locations for our work.
And I know that at one point you were, well, actually right now you're still with Career Contessa, which is a consulting company. Right?
Yeah, it's a really catered, think of it as a platform for women in their careers. So I know on the sign it mentioned I was like the founder. I'm not. The founder is amazing, but I'm fortunate to work with her as one of the career, I guess, coaches. That's part of their platform.
Right. Well, I know that there had been a lot of changes during the recent pandemic. So over the last year, I read in the newspaper, in the news media, that there had been a lot of layoffs, a lot of jobs cuts in corporate America. And I'm just curious with the recent opening up. It's been like what, a year and a quarter since the pandemic started. What have been the changes recently? Are companies hiring again? Big companies like Facebook, Zillow?
Yeah, so I don't know if you recall, but I remember seeing numbers back in April 2020. So when it hit, there were 22 million people looking for jobs. Not all of it was related to COVID, but definitely compounded. 4 weeks, I believe, after the former president declared national emergency, it peaked at, I think, nearly 15%. So since then, in January, we've dropped to about 6.3%. But yes, like there are definitely companies that are still hesitant to hire. So the tip I would say is, like, when do you think companies are looking or hiring is when you start seeing companies posting jobs about jobs for recruiters, for human resources, for equity and belonging. Those are all good signs that companies are starting to hire and about to reinvest in their employees.
Okay. And during the pandemic, what kind of cutback did you see them do?
I would say, I mean, obviously the job loss number was definitely there. I would say some people were either laid off or furloughed. And furlough just means that they are just temporary out for a while and it's possible to come in. So a company, for example, that I can recall, like Airbnb, actually furloughed some people and actually have recently brought them back, or have actually brought them back a while ago. So that's an example. There are probably others, like some pay reductions or other, benefits. But I would say in my circle of technology companies, I found that they actually continue to reinvest in the employees, knowing that we would come out of COVID eventually.
Right. During 2020, what kind of what did you focus on to help you thrive in this during this long-term pandemic?
Yeah, can you believe it's still not over? Yeah, so when the pandemic first started, I recall many companies were operating the assumption that we would be back in the office or even back to normal before the end of summer 2020. That was like when we left the office in March. And so mentally, I think people and companies had to shift that mindset really quickly, that it's going to be much longer and way beyond 2020. So, and this is, at least for workers that work from home, those with young kids, because at the time you couldn't bring in outside care to your home. So literally you're just balancing maybe 3 jobs, including being a teacher. Now, I'm a little fortunate. So I have one older child at 11, but she had to do homeschooling for the first time, and she's still doing it. And she's definitely missing that social connection and really the growth and learning, being like a middle school kid. So what I do think that companies did well is when they started to jump into thinking about solutions long term. So like what ifs, monitoring like their employees' mental health. And that included like surveys to check like how are people handling like working from home, to decide what kind of support they would give them. So Zillow, for example, we created more caretaker leaves for situations like this. Also include the right home office setup. These are all, I guess, things that we just didn't think about, but think about larger companies that have to, basically do all this program nationally or even internationally.
Yeah, that is really great to hear that companies are making changes to accommodate workers. And I remember things were being so chaotic with parents kind of work from home, young children with no childcare. So now things have been settled. Do you see workers coming back to offices? Maybe even at 50% occupancy comparing to the pandemic. What do you see?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I have a crystal ball. Then I would, I might tell you what the next lottery number is.
Right.
I mean, the truth is each company are still like trying to figure this out. But I do think what they want to do, even if it's not about coming back, full time, it is about finding ways to create flexibility for these work arrangements. And so some of that includes like distributed workforce, which allows recruiting to go to where the talent is. So typical cities, maybe we might go to a Seattle or San Francisco, but now we can go to parts in the middle of the country where there would be talent and they can work for us, but distributed. And so that means more opportunities, I think, for people. Yeah, so that's kind of how I would say it is. There's still a wait and see, but some companies do more hybrid, which is, partly at home and then coming into the office at times.
Right. Because you are a recruiter, a senior recruiter for one of the top companies in the job market right now, I'm sure a lot of our listeners would love to hear some of your tips on how to land those, amazing jobs at Facebook and Zillow. Can you offer our viewers and audience some tips on how to land those kind of jobs?
Yeah, well, that's a big, broad question. I will say first that the psychology of losing a job can hit hard. But with COVID, it's sort of the job search timeline that may be much longer than usual. So I think setting some, one of the things I remember one of my clients asked me is like, what do I tell my future potential employers what I did the past 6 to 9 months where I didn't have a job. I was just job searching and I was balancing home. And the tip I suggested for this person was think about what they care about, because here's the thing, companies know everybody was affected by COVID and they know this job loss isn't necessary on you. But what they probably would love to know is that in that 6 to 9 months, what did you do for personal growth? Did you take a digital marketing class? Were you a consultant? Like some people did a side hustle and became a consultant to support other businesses. So basically, not about productivity, because it was a very stressful time, but it's more about how did you focus your mindset to continue positively, even though you're in a situation where you're just looking for that next job.
Right. Basically, what I'm hearing is if you have, can you hear me?
I can still hear you.
Okay. My screen went dark for some reason, but I can still hear you. So that's good.
I see you as well.
So what I'm hearing is when you off work for a while like that, companies want to see if you have made good use of that time to learn and grow. And if as long as you are making progress in picking up new skills, learning new things, they see that as a good thing, and you still can be competitive in the job market. Is that right?
Right, and it shows that you're resilient, that you can take on this challenge, and you are finding ways to, just better yourself, even despite the situation. Yes.
Well, what are you are a consultant at Career Contessa for how long now?
Almost, I would say 4 to 5 years, probably officially with them. Yeah.
Right. What are the common reasons why clients seek your coaching service there?
Yeah, well, it's definitely not for health tips, because that's not what I don't specialize in that. But really, ironically, before I had official clients, the type of advice that my friends and family and even like teams asked are very similar to what I now do, more one-on-one customization and consultation. So these include, career satisfaction or internal mobility. Perhaps they're thinking about pivoting to a new industry, or they're discovering new passion, along the way. Now, some people took time off, right? Maybe to be a caretaker, to be a mom and dad for a while. And now they're trying to figure out, well, how do I get back into the job market and not lose that momentum?
Right.
Another one that's interesting is that if you're currently a job seeker, they will definitely ask the more tactical things like, how do I stand out? How do I negotiate? How do I really close the, you know sales well. So we're like, how do I close the deal?
How
right?
That's right.
How to sell yourself, exactly. And also, more importantly, finding out, even if they do get the offer, like, is this company right for them? Like, maybe it's a well-known brand, but like, is this exactly matching what their value is? And finally, I get a lot of these people wanting to discuss some historical things. Like, people get stuck with maybe regrets of decisions that they made or didn't make, and we all have that.
Yeah. Tell me about that. I know that you had some regret about something that was offered. Tell me.
No. This is a personal one, and I don't have a lot of regrets with my career, even though there were like failures or mistakes. I was laid off one time from a startup that eventually, went belly up. But all of those experiences are great. So in terms of my personal story, was I want to say, probably within the last 7-8 years, at some point, I really had an opportunity, and this is again through networking, through a friend, and I won't name the newspaper. It's somewhere in Seattle, but it was a newspaper where.
A big one.
Yeah. They were looking for a career columnist. And I had like the paperwork was ready. They were ready to, sign me on. I had shared, I think, some writing samples, and all the editors would have read some of my stuff. And I did not pull the trigger. And I now look back and I realize that I wasn't that confident, even though I had been coaching and doing all of these things for years. I didn't have official clients at the time. So I taught myself to say, well, if no one paid me for my work, if I wasn't really an official, coach, why would anyone listen to me on this, on this column? So I basically lost this opportunity because I chose to walk away and didn't even try. So to this day, it's one of those things to remind me, like, stop taking opportunities away from yourself. It's one thing if somebody rejects you, right?
Yeah.
It's another to actually just decide, I'm not going to do it. So that's an example where you have peaks and valleys, you make decisions in your life, but that's okay. Sure, it's a regret. But have I gotten to do other things that I still really love? Yes.
Well, there you have it, folks. Ginny, as smart and capable as she is, we're all human. We all kind of do sometimes certain ways. But you know what, Ginny, I think you are in a great place, to advise and to help candidates to find great jobs.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
Those opportunities will come and go, and I'm sure you will pick up another gig that just as exciting. I'm sure you're still doing recruiting for big companies, but maybe doing some contributing columnist work for some major newspaper, but like the one that you just shared that you just passed on. But people who are listening, Ginny, she is ready to contribute to your column. So if you have a column career. Yeah, don't forget about Ginny Cheng.
Thank you. That's a nice plug.
Yeah, of course. Well, we have a couple of minutes, and I know that you are full of advice and tips, and any major, let's say the number one tip you think applies to everyone in looking for job in this market, especially high level, professional career.
Yeah, I think mine's going to be more philosophical. You probably hear like, I'm now in my dream job, or I'm looking for my dream job. I want to get to this XYZ particular title. So there's this like goal, right? Most people want to look for. The way I would challenge that is, you can have those goals, but what if you treated every single opportunity that you've had or every job as your dream job. Imagine that passion and that energy you would put in if you thought that way. So thoughts turn into action. So that's the way, that's my tip. And I know this is not necessarily about job search, but really it's really about career satisfaction. It is about understanding to be not content, but knowing and appreciating and having the gratitude for every opportunity you do get, because I have a feeling somebody else is probably vying for that particular opportunity as well. So the more you do that, the more people see that you have this kind of work ethic and this positive energy that really can translate to different types of roles and different types of company. So that's what I would suggest as a whole for anyone who's looking or just thinking about, in their next career move.
Well, folks, it is my pleasure to have Ginny Cheng on today. We have just a couple of seconds to wrap the program up. Thank you, Ginny, so much for coming and sharing your expertise, your thoughts on our show, Afternoons with Monique, today.
Thank you.
Of course, you're on Rainier Avenue Radio. I'm Monique Lee, host of Afternoons with Monique. Following, you will have a special program entitled Reparation Without Gentrification, 10 Keys to Building Wealth in the Black Community, coming up next. Folks, don't forget to go on rainieravenue.world to check out the Black History Month program. We have the rest of the month, about 3 more days coming up with a program, so don't forget to check us out. Next week on Afternoons with Monique, I will have Miss Washington Teen USA, Tara Lee Gardner, my sweet firstborn, coming on the show to share with us about her competition on the Miss Washington Teen 2021. So tune in next week at 1 p.m. Have a good afternoon, everybody.
Rainier Avenue Radio.world, breaking radio boundaries.